Okay, I'm just gonna show off two incredibly degenerate things that I implemented. These were things that fell in the category of, yeah, you could do it, but it's just so goddamn minute a difference. It probably isn't worth it. So, oh, actually, before I actually show it, let me. So for the elevator doors in the uptown entrance stage, see how originally there were just kind of a canned number of animations to handle opening the elevator door. So there used to be only 12 frames, and that was just it. And it's also kind of inefficient because you have to store all of these graphics to handle each size of it. And there's a limit to how smooth it can be, of course, because you're basically limited by how many frames of animation you have. So now check out this shit. Refresh rate independent. I can step through this and just look at this fucking bullshit. You could have a 60 hertz monitor. You could have a 1000 hertz monitor. It's just going to just be infinitely smooth. Sub pixel accuracy. Smoothly opening the elevator. And it's so comical, like how over engineered this is. Where, I mean, you can see how when kind of the edge there is going to hit where the, like light reflection is on the corners of the glass, you'll see that it actually starts moving with it. And it just, it perfectly clips all of the graphics so that it just gets hidden perfectly smoothly. And then here we can see like a real time view of this, just so you can see how smooth this is. Look at that shit. Look at that fucking bullcrap. Look at that. It's fucking bullshit. Okay, so that's fine, right? But that isn't it. Um, if I warp to the subway stage, I actually, like, shit you not, actually animated the fucking subway doors. Get to the end of the stage here. Might as well kick some ass along the way. And the interesting thing about this is, um, it actually saved about 4 megabytes of video RAM just because it doesn't need as many graphics now. Because basically everything, all the graphics have been broken up, and basically they don't need to be as large as they were. So yeah, I mean it's pretty much just a straight up win. Um, it's the same deal for these doors. I mean, I won't go into like all the nitty gritty details of what it's doing, but it is actually kind of hilarious, just like how over engineered it is. Where it actually figures out how many doors end up being visible, so it knows how many it has to animate, and it's just fucking ridiculous. But the reason I wanted to do this though was that this is kind of fulfilling the promise of uncapping the game. Where almost no movement in the game is limited anymore. It can pretty much all go, as smoothly as your display can handle. So look at this shit. Look at that fucking crap. Subpixel accuracy. Just in potentially infinite number of you know tiny movements to open the subway doors. It's fucking bullshit. Um, and on top of all that crap, there was also a nice little change to make the end of the West Side stage, like the boss area where you fight Eddie. Um, I didn't like how sometimes the cars, like the collider for the cars could get in the way. So now you'll notice that depending on your or your aspect ratio, it's actually resizing this little area, and you're basically building out as much of a crowd as it needs to fill up the space in the background. So basically, like you have the whole screen to fight Eddie in, and that gives Eddie like easier maneuverability to like run around and shoot at you, and it's pretty fucking nice. So yeah, it's just little changes here and there, um, but yeah, it's pretty fucking bullshit though, all around. I am happy with finally making some of those things refresh rate independent, and like I said, it's like at the end of the day, it basically ended up being more efficient anyway. And so I can't actually show it, but the last thing I did was I multi-threaded the asset loading. So now when it loads, like the music files and all that stuff, it's multi-threaded, and so the game loads faster when you start it. So these are all pretty nice improvements that are going to be in the next version.